It's time to pull up a chair and talk some Dynasty football. I am your host, J.J. Wenner, and this is the Rider Dynasty Podcast. With me are my co-hosts, Jameson Hutchinson and Joe and Jason Harlow. Tonight, we are going to be talking about some recent QB moves, our Dynasty tight end tiers, and anything else we can possibly fit into this show. So let's jump right into it. Before the season, I'm throwing in a curveball, buddy. Before the season,
got me.
I did get you. The three of us did a little tiny draft. And during this draft, the starting requirements were 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex. The catch was we could only draft 1 player from each division. So 8 players, 8 divisions, PPR. I entered the results into Sleeper and made it a best ball league. And whoever was going to score the most points is going to win. Now, looking at the results, I am overwhelmingly winning this league. Thank you very much. Followed by Jameson in second. And Joe in a distant third. And just to look at those point totals to see how much I'm crushing by, 1,715.62 for me. Jameson's at 1715.56, destroying him by 6/100ths of a point. And Joe is 24 points with rounding behind. So needless to say, it's going to come down to the last couple weeks. But Jameson, I looked at this and I couldn't get over the fact of how obscenely close our scores were to one another.
Well, I just want to say, starting off, if I lose this, I'm demanding a recount immediately right off the bat. So I want to make sure if this margin of error is this thin, we need to make sure that everything is counted correctly, recounted. Maybe I'll do my own counting, whatever it takes.
I didn't recognize you, Donald. I didn't know you were on the pod with us tonight. Am I on with Donald and Elon? What's going on here? Oh, sorry, we shouldn't get
just saying.
Talk.
Just saying.
All right. Well, enough of that nonsense. Let's get right into what is going on. We want to talk about some recent QB changes. Now, the Cleveland Browns have made the decision to bench Jameis in favor of Dorian, Thompson-Robinson. Jameis had gone 2-5 this season, throwing 13 TDs, 12 interceptions. Joe, what are your thoughts on this move?
I get it. That's at the point of the year where is DTR better than Jameis? Probably not, but they're at the point they're way out of contention. Might as well see what they have in a second-year guy who had shown a little bit of promise in preseason games, has shown a flash or two in limited time in the pros, but Jameis he's fun for fantasy, but NFL-wise, it makes sense that Cleveland would move on just to see.
Now, Jameson, what does this do to any fantasy asset you have on the Browns?
I think it plummets all of their stock. So Jerry Jeudy is a guy who hit for 1,000 yards this year, and most of it came after Week 8 when Jameis Winston started coming in and chucking the ball. Elijah Moore coming off a really bad game. I mean, his value was basically tied to Jameis. Then David Njoku seems like he might be out this week. So you get Cedric Tillman back. DTR has been god-awful, to say the least, and I think that is being very respectful to anybody who has watched DTR plays. So the thing with these coaches is they'll put up with a lot, but they won't put up with quarterbacks who constantly turn the ball over. So if Jameis would have behaved a little bit better, I think he'd still be around. But, I mean, he's throwing like 3 or 4 picks a game that are caught, and he's throwing about 4 or 5 more that aren't. So just can't live that way in the NFL.
Yeah, so I definitely see why they're going to the guy who has 1 career touchdown versus 7 career picks.
Oofta.
Makes a lot of sense.
I'm just sorry. I mean, I understand like the Jets didn't want Jerry Jeudy because of his Madden rating. In case you missed the news today.
Is that real? Is that really real?
Oh, I believe it.
Listen, I was going to wait until later, so I'm just going to hold off on my Jets comments.
I'm not going to say I believe it, Jameson, like you said, but I don't believe that I believe it.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it 100%. All right, we have a question from Protect Your QB. What's up, buddy? Julian Love or Belton this week? And Ernest Jones or Davis Gaither?
That'd be Akeem Davis Gaither. This is a fun one. If you check out my shameless plug start sit article this week, 2 of these players are actually listed as my start, or I guess the way I have it listed now is tier up or tier down. So with limited players. Ernest Jones, I think, is going to be IDP 1 overall this week. And then Dane Belton I have as a dark horse, just kind of shot to be a safety 1 off a safety overall safety 1 week last week. I still might go with Julian Love over him, though. I think I'd still take Julian Love over Belton and Ernest Jones for sure over Akeem Davis Gaither.
Jameson, do you have anything to offer?
I do not. I'm going to leave it to the professional. Respectfully.
And I concur. I will leave it to Joe. Thanks, Protector QB.
Some juicy nuggets there. The Vikings are a team that I've been targeting for linebackers. They have allowed a top 6 linebacker in the 2 of the past 3 weeks, which has been a team's linebacker 1. Then one of those, they allowed 2 top 12 linebackers. Last week, they allowed linebacker 11, I think, based off like the invitational scoring. So they've been bleeding points to linebacker 1s. Their overall rankings, they aren't giving any points up to team second linebackers most of the time, but LB1s are going insane against the Vikings right now.
We love to hear that. And if I was still alive in any IDP leagues, I would have used that information, but I am dead everywhere. Dead everywhere. All right. Well, let's go to Tennessee. The Titans have benched Will Levis after throwing 3 interceptions against the Bengals. Mason Rudolph will start this weekend. Now, Jameson, I know you were a Levis believer before this season. Where did it go wrong?
I just think Will Levis is not very good at the professional football. One thing that I will say is, and that's me behaving because we have a kid around, but the right side of the offensive line has just been a disaster for Tennessee. And it just, I thought Callahan coming from Cleveland, one of the better offensive line coaches, I thought things would get a little bit better, but it's been a turnstile over there. And Will Levis is just doing his best Jameis impersonation as far as these constant turnovers. He's got arm talent. I thought he'd be a really fun super flex kind of quarterback this year if you were waiting to punt a little bit, because he does have a lot of athleticism. He ran at Kentucky, but we haven't seen much of that. This Titans offense just been a disaster from the get-go, and it just it's never really gotten around. I just Will Levis isn't it, and Tennessee will probably be moving on after this year and go finding a quarterback if they can't get one in the draft.
Yeah, PFF has Levis ranked 40th out of 40 qualifying QBs in passing rating.
I think that's too high.
But his athleticism and his running skill brings him up to 39th of 40 QBs with a 56.3 overall grade.
Still too high. I think they're being way too respectful to those rankings personally, but I'm just saying.
Anybody want to guess who the 1 QB rated below him is?
Watson?
No, Watson was above him. Cooper Rush is the only one.
How?
Rated below.
Cooper Rush is not the worst. Not the best. I'm not going to say he's good, but...
Well, he's not the worst. Will Levis is clearly the worst.
But, yeah, we'll see.
I'm throwing that out there.
I do think the thought process with Levis in the offseason was still the right process. Mm-hmm. I don't think any of us were like, yeah, he's for sure going to be a top 14 quarterback or whatever we thought he could be. This was in the range of outcomes, but he was going, late 28, quarterback 28, something like that? I think it was definitely worth the risk.
He was drafted as one of the last quarterbacks, and I mean, you get Brian Callahan coming from Cincinnati, who hasn't really shown much, but you get Tony Pollard, who's actually looked pretty good in decent matchups. You have Calvin Ridley, who has had some big games too. So I don't know. I think there's some interesting stuff for Tennessee as far as next year goes, quarterback wise. I think they'll be in the Sam Darnold mix if they
Derek Carr,
keep.
too.
If they keep losing games, they might be in a quarterback, which quarterback in this year's draft seems like it's getting thinner and thinner by the minute. So it's just won't be Will Levis, and hopefully not Mason Rudolph either, because he sucks too. Respectfully.
Just because you say respectfully doesn't make it respectful, buddy.
Well, respectfully.
All right. Well, let's go down to Atlanta. And the Falcons have decided to sit down old man Kirk Cousins in favor of the rookie Michael Penix Jr. Now, Cousins did lead the Falcons to a 7-7 record with 18 TDs and 16 INTs, which is leading the league right now. So, Joe, what are your thoughts on this move?
They had to do it. Kirk, he's not right. You see it. You can see it on even handoffs. He can't move. I know there's a lot of love for Michael Penix, and I'm still hesitant on that. Sorry.
I don't think you're alone there.
But you can't keep putting Kirk Cousins out there. It's not good for Kirk. It's not good for the Falcons. Again, he can't even hand the ball off right now. He can't do the outside zone handoffs. So, if nothing else, Penix could do that.
Jameson, any thoughts on Penix?
I don't think a lot changes as far as the offense goes. I mean, Michael Penix is a guy who does 3-step drop back, sits in the pocket, and he'll be able to sling it. He tests really well athletically, but for whatever reason, he does not tend to run. I wouldn't be surprised, play action, that sort of stuff. I think it's interesting, and I think it'll be better for the offense because, I mean, they've turned into full boomer football, running on 1st and 10, just trying to hide Kirk Cousins any way that they can. So I'm interested in Penix. I know he's an older prospect. I know people get all worked up about that stuff and how the situation is. But if Michael Penix is a hit, it doesn't matter what they paid Kirk Cousins or that, they got the number 8 overall pick for him because they get a quarterback. Most of these NFL teams don't. So it just, I'm interested in it. I think, honestly, Darnell Mooney, if anything, is probably more interesting than most because I think he'll have some opportunities to, some of the downfield stuff because Penix likes to push the ball. We saw that at Washington. I think he'll get. I think this Falcons team kind of interesting. They're outside the playoff race, but I mean, I think Penix will be a lot better, and I think people will be surprised how well he does.
Yeah, we were discussing it last night on the All Out Blitz. Make sure you tune in if you have not. That also, Drake London was a good contested catch guy at one point in his career. Yep. So he could also get a little bit more action down the field. All right. Well, we have another question from Caesar Rangel or Cesar. Hey guys, PPR league, start a wide receiver, running back, and a flex. Ladd, Devontae, JT, and Cook.
I think I would lean Ladd, Devontae, and Cook. JT, for one, should be in prison for what he did last week to start off. I want to kick
How
off
long
that.
would you put him away for?
A lifetime. Just make it simple. But he doesn't have the pass-catching ability like Cook does, and then obviously you got 2 wide receivers. I know Ladd is not in the best matchup, but he's about all the Chargers got, and they have no running back. So you're going to see Herbert probably sling it. Devontae Adams, in the time of need, for whatever reason, him and Aaron Rodgers are going back like a decade and, playing the greatest hits like they did last week. So JT, this Colts team is terrible, and I don't think he has the upside as these other guys. So I would kick him out. Like I said, I'd send him to federal prison.
I agree with sending him to federal prison, but I think
embarrassing.
Yeah. I actually might sit Ladd, though. I'm very worried that Surtain is just going to be shadowing McConkey the entirety of the game because he is the only player that they have. And we're hearing on one of the Yahoo shows that Surtain's been in the slot 5% of snaps this year, but every single one of those was against a top tier receiver. So I could see them, they're willing to shadow him. And that's really all the Chargers have. So I could really see Ladd just being an absolute zero this week. But I think I'd still play him over JT right now, though. Also, out of spite. In one of the most sicko games I've ever seen last week. Just gross.
Tough day for JT. All right, different PPR league for Cesar. Najee, Tracy, or Patrick Taylor?
Let's see. So we get Najee going up against the Ravens, who on defense, they've been better against the run than the pass, but Najee has been decent. You get Tracy against the Falcons. Falcons don't really have good defense. And then the 49ers are playing the Dolphins, who have quietly been okay. I think I'm just going to try to play it safe and play Najee. I don't think any of these guys have much upside. The only other thing I would say is like Kyle Shanahan might just run Patrick Taylor into the ground, have him run it 50 times like he does with every running back. So, but I'm going to lean Najee.
So you think Najee has the best floor?
Yeah, and that's kind of how I'm going to play it. Like Tyrone Tracy, if you think about it, just the Giants' offense has been so bad. Like he has, unless he breaks a long run, he's not going to be on the goal line to get a touchdown. And then Patrick Taylor, he's fine. Like we saw Isaac Rindo before he got hurt last week against the Rams. Like he was fine, wasn't great, wasn't bad, but he got a lot of volume. So, but I think Najee's going to get that volume too. So he's in a better offense. They're not going to have George Pickens, so they might just try to lean a little bit more on Najee. So that's kind of where I'm leaning there. Just Najee as a, kind of more safe floor and has a little bit of a ceiling to him compared to these other guys.
Joe?
Because it's full PPR, if I'm reading that right, I think I'd go Tracy. He's had 21 targets in the last 4 games. Granted, 10 were in one game, but I agree he's not going to score a touchdown most likely, but
who's the quarterback?
I really don't think
Tim Boyle?
Yeah. It's Neighbors and Tracy there, so
yeah. That's ugly.
I think
That's
this
ugly.
is a weirdly good problem to have, though. I think all of them will be RB 16 to 18-ish range, give or take. Does that sound about right to you, Jameson?
Yeah, I'd say in that range. And I know a lot of people are going to be excited to play Patrick Taylor, but he's the running back 4 on the 49ers. I mean, they've
5 if you count Eli Mitchell.
Yeah, so excuse me, number 5. So it's not like you were
6 if you count Kyle Juszczyk.
Oh, shit,
yeah, so
right.
I mean, I know he's the.
Are we throwing Deebo Samuel into that number?
Yeah, maybe 7. So just people get excited to play these backup running backs.
Sorry, Cesar.
But I just you got to also think of the player as well. So, yeah. I just for me it'd be Najee. I understand since it's PPR, maybe Tracy if he gets dump offs. But I just if you don't have any chance at touchdowns without breaking a long one behind a offensive line that sucks, I just that's really hard for me to stomach. So I'm just gonna lean Najee here.
Yeah, even if it was down to half PPR, I would switch to Najee as well.
All right. Well, before we get to our Dynasty tight end tiers, let's get a word from our sponsors. Finish the season off strong with IDP Plus. Visit idpplus.com for a limited time, limited being the entire season. Get 20% off any subscription with the promo code PROPS. We are so much more than just IDP. Sign up and get access to our tools, data, and articles. And don't miss out on our subscriber Discord, where our best and brightest are helping with waivers, lineups, and trades every single day. So go to idpplus.com and finish your march to the championship today. All right, gentlemen, let's take a look at our Dynasty tiers. Now, we have a lot of movement as we see a lot of the old guard taking a step back and the young guys filling up their spots. Now, in tier 1, we have Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, and Sam Laporta. I have absolutely no argument with those three being in tier one. Gentlemen, do you have any issues with those being the top three tight ends?
I would personally, I think I'd move Laporta to the second tier, but that just
Absolutely. Same.
I don't think he has he's got too many mouths to feed in Detroit, and I just don't think he has the upside as these two guys. So I'd put him in tier two. I know he was coming off this. I know it's Dynasty, but redraft he was like the tight end one this year. I thought that was too high from the start, just because he had a lot of touchdowns the year before in his rookie season. A lot of people got excited about him. So still think Laporte is good. I just think he got a little over. People got a little over their skis on him, and what Brock Bowers and Trey McBride has done, even with 0 touchdowns. I just would have the two in tier one by themselves.
All right, so let's go ahead and move him to tier two.
Looking at it, Laporta has 57 targets on the year. Brock Bowers has 119 and Trey McBride 109.
One of these guys is not like the other. One of these guys just didn't belong, so he has been removed. So now we're looking at tier two with TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, Dalton Kincaid, Travis Kelce, David Njoku, and Sam Laporta. First, are there any of those gentlemen who should move up to tier one?
With Kittle's age, no. Yeah, I think that's really.
Any thoughts about Hawkinson moving up?
If Jordan Addison hadn't broken out as much as he had the past few weeks,
okay,
and if there was more quarterback certainty, maybe, but as of now, I think tier two is a good place for him.
Jameson, are you on board with that?
Yeah. If George Kittle was a little younger, I think he'd belong in tier one. He's probably the most underrated Dynasty tight end, and he has been for like the last couple of years just because people I think like when he's got the lows, he's got like the 0 floor. But I mean, this year he's outside of like one game, he has been really good. So it's I mean, Travis Kelce's 35 and still kicking. So I mean, you got George Kittle. If you think he plays that long, which I don't think he does, and then the rest of these guys, I don't think any of them else belong in tier one. So I do want to bring up somebody who I'd like to kick out of tier two, but I think everything else is good.
We were about to ask that question. Does anybody not belong in tier two?
Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah. He
has not been good this year.
No. Good thing no one thought he was going to be tight end one this year. My bad, everyone.
I'd also.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say I'd also make the case for Kelce because he's 35. I would have a very hard time seeing him playing another year. I know he's tight end 5 on the season, but I mean competition's not very stiff. So I just I don't know. Maybe for nostalgia, if somebody want to keep him there, but I just don't think it's not like the Travis Kelce of old either.
My thought here is that if tight end was a much deeper position like wide receiver, definitely move him down. But looking at just other names, target counts, there's not many guys I would really consider taking over Kelce, even if it is just one more year. So I think I could hear an argument either way, but I think I'd lean leaving him.
Okay. Any concerns over David Njoku not having a quarterback?
Honestly, if he had a quarterback, he'd be a tier one consideration for me.
Okay.
He has 8. He is 7th in the league and targets amongst tight ends and has played 3 or 4 less games than all of the other guys ahead of him. And less games than the next 5 names as well. So,
all right. So David Njoku stays in tier 2. Dalton Kincaid drops back.
Yep.
And let's take a look at tier 3. As we scroll across, move Dalton Kincaid onto that tier. And we have Kyle Pitts, Tucker Kraft, Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews, Jake Ferguson, Dallas Goedert, Cole Kmet, and Dalton Kincaid. Gentlemen, is there anybody in this tier who should move back up to tier 2? Anybody you're willing to move up?
Kyle Pitts? Just kidding. Just kidding. I think we can have a conversation about Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews, and Jake Ferguson. The names the names I think should be brought up. But I'm not sure if I would move any of them up.
So, Jameson, your thoughts on Mark Andrews?
He has been okay this year. Like, he's getting 10 to 12 points a game. He just doesn't have the ceiling as these other guys, it seems like, anymore. I know he's had like a 2-touchdown game, but like as far as production goes, I don't really see it. He's 29 years old, so it's not really an age factor thing. I'm actually honestly really interested in Jake Ferguson once Dak Prescott comes back next year. When Dak Prescott's in there, Jake Ferguson has just absolutely kicked ass. And he's also been a guy that's been really underrated. You're not going to see it right now. They also have Luke Schoonmaker, who is pretty decent, but I think Ferguson has been a guy who's really underrated as well. And then Evan Ingram just seems like a PPR scam. It's not someone I'm very excited about. I could see him on a new team next year, and I think that would kind of be dependent on how you rank him kind of going forward. But like I said, if I had to pick out of these three, I'd say Jake Ferguson would be the guy that I'm most excited about.
The Jags save 15.75 million if they cut him post June 1. So Ingram's gone. So yeah, I'd agree. Ferguson up, and probably that's it.
All right. Now, looking at this group in tier 3, now we have Pitts, Kraft, Ingram, Andrews, Goddard, Kmet, and Kincaid. Anybody who you want to give the boot to, Joe?
Cole Kmet. He has been absolutely atrocious on field this season. I don't think. Yeah, he's been awful. He's making rookie mistakes as a vet. He's supposed to be a leader on the team. And I think you can argue he's been one of the 10 worst players, like starters in the league this year across any position.
All right. So Kmet possibly moving down. Jameson, anybody for you?
I'd consider moving Dalton Kincaid at least one more tier down. He has just not been good this year at all. Kind of looking at some of the stuff. I mean, he scored 10.1 points in week 3 and hasn't beaten that since. He's got no other games with 10 plus points. So most of them, 2, 3, 5, just has no upside. He's not been good. I would kick him out. I think he was a first-round talent. People got really excited about him. And it's not like any other Buffalo Bills have separated, but it just Dalton Kincaid really hasn't panned out, I think, like people expected him to be with all the pass-catching concerns before the year for Buffalo. So he'd be a guy I'd want to kick out of this tier.
Any thoughts on that, Joe, with Kincaid getting the boot?
I'd keep him here unless we're also going to move Kyle Pitts and Tucker Kraft out. I think those three kind of belong together. But I think early in the season, Josh Allen was targeting Kincaid a lot and just wasn't quite working out for whatever reasons. And he's been nicked up a lot this year. So I would lean to keep him, but I don't think Jameson's crazy at all.
I almost wonder if we should have like Ingram and Andrews in their own tier. I'm not a big fan of Goddard. I mean, when we talked about Goddard before this season, I think my comment was every year we talk about how great Goddard could be if only he stays healthy and plays. Yeah. And yet again, we're in another season where he's not healthy and playing. Like Grant Calcaterra is getting like all of his receptions. So I don't know how much I trust him.
It's hard because he's a damn good football player. You could tell me he's a top 5 NFL tight end, and I couldn't tell you crazy. But for fantasy, I don't disagree with you. And I will say, if we're splitting this tier, I think we can hear the argument of dropping Kelsey into this tier.
Okay, I like this conversation now. So if we move Kelsey from tier 2 to this new tier 3, Right, we have Andrews, Goddard, Kelsey. I mean, if we throw Kittle in there, it's almost like the tier 1 from 3 years ago. All right, so we have Hawk, Kittle, Njoku, Laporta, and Ferguson in tier 2. We now have Ingram, Andrews, Goddard, and Kelsey in tier 3. And I know we're running out of space, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of a... Excuse my...
Jameson, what do you think of that breakdown?
I think it works out. It just because there's definitely like a floor and a ceiling to these tight ends, especially in this realm.
Yeah.
Like you have the guys who can actually score points. You got the guys who can score 10 points. You got the guys who can sometimes get a touchdown, and then like that's kind of how tight ends go. So it just Dallas Goedert is a guy that if AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are out, he works out really well. If they're both playing, he's just a non-factor. So it just ends up getting very frustrating. But I mean, that's the Dallas Goedert game. He had like the 100-yard, 2-touchdown game earlier this year, and that was with one of the wide receivers out. But now that they're both back and everybody's doing great, like Jalen Hurts doesn't really target the middle of the field that much. It's where Dallas Goedert would be. So I just, I've never been a Goddard guy. He's honestly a player that's kind of my blind spot. He's just somebody I would never choose unless I'm desperate. So maybe I'm not as qualified, but I just kind of is what it is for me.
I guess you could say we're all just waiting for Goddard. That's a theater joke for people who waiting for Godot. I'm going to see myself out.
Shout out my little sister who just had her 21st birthday and is a theater major.
Hey! Yeah, tell her to double major.
Yeah, she knows.
Yeah, I did not know how to... Roman numerals don't have decimals, do they? So I wasn't sure if I should just go Roman numeral 3.v or
I was going to ask you to do this.
But is it too soon for this conversation? All right.
You're making me want to tell a dad joke about Roman numerals, so I'm gonna hold off.
No, do it.
Okay. Do you know ancient Rome had 4 types of poison?
What? I didn't know that.
Types 1 through 3 killed you quickly, and type IV just made you really itchy. Poison ivy.
Not bad.
All right, Jameson.
Finally, it's not me that gets it out.
Lordy, that might have been the worst dad joke. And I tell those professionally as a middle school teacher.
I think that's the first time I've been booted off the screen. It took a while.
Well, I'll never do it again. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I need to try harder.
All right, gentlemen. Now we're getting to the dredges of tight ends. We are now looking at our 3-point V of Kyle Pitts, Tucker Kraft, Dalton Kincaid, and Cole Kmet. Should any of those gentlemen be bumped further down?
Cole Kmet?
Yeah.
Start off.
All right, so we're going to drop Kmet to the next tier and leave Pitts, Kraft, and Kincaid and 3-point V. All right, so let's look at tier 4 and see if there's anybody we want to move up. We have in this tier Pat Freiermuth, Cade Otton, Isaiah Likely, Jonnu Smith, Dalton Schultz, Jatavian Sanders, Hunter Henry, Ben Sinnott, Noah Fant, and Cole Kmet. I see 3 guys I'd like to move up immediately. So I would like to nominate Pat Freiermuth to move up.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get a hell yeah from you, Jameson?
Hell yeah.
All right. Okay,
so
good.
That makes sense. And then
I agree.
I got 2 others as well, but JJ, I think you're on the same
No, go ahead.
wavelength.
Who do you got?
I would rather have Jonnu Smith than all 4 of those guys in tier 3.5. And then, honestly, I was kind of trying to think this through. Hunter Henry, if the Patriots get a better offensive line, I know he's older. He's been really reliable for Drake May this year. I know it doesn't really show it on the stat sheet, but I mean, he's come up in some big spots for Drake May. I think the offense gets better next year. I know he's a little older, but I do think he's been very productive. He's had he's been tackled on the 1 yard line, I think 4 times. Every time I watch the Patriots, it's not very fun, but I think like that would reflect in the stats a little bit more, like something. So him, I would move up in that tier as well, but I know that the stats themselves aren't really backing that up, if that makes sense.
Mr. Harlow, what do you think about Hunter Henry moving to 3-point V?
I'd be willing to put him and Jonu in that tier 3 conversation, just since we have the kind of natural age breakdown. Those two are both older guys. And yeah, I think if the Patriots can get in like a Tet McMillan, potential spoiler there, or another big time wide receiver, that could really open things up for Henry, who's always been, when healthy, has been really good.
So would you rather Pat Freiermuth or Hunter Henry?
I would rather have Henry personally.
I think so too.
Okay. This is a Penn State pod, so
yeah,
I'm always going to lean towards the Penn Staters.
I don't think it'd be crazy to move Muth up to 3, though.
I mean, because I would much rather have Freiermuth than Kincaid, Kraft, and Pitts.
I kind of like Tucker Kraft, but I mean, he is a week by week special.
And Luke Musgrave's coming back, and he and Jordan Love had some pretty good chemistry when he was self. Yeah, I'd move Muth up.
That's the other problem with it.
All right. Now let's look over here. We're still back on this mess with tier 4. We now have Cade Otton, Isaiah Likely, Dalton Schultz, Jatavion Sanders, Ben Sinnott, Noah Fant, and Cole Kmet. I'd like to nominate Jatavion Sanders to be moved up.
I would say him into 3.5 as well. Then the Cade Otton discussion we need to have.
So before we talk about Cade Otton, is there anybody else in here we would move up? I would say no.
I don't think so. I thought Ben Sinnott would be a lot more interesting than he has been this year. Like, there's absolutely nothing happening with him. So even try to like do a further look down the road for Ben Sinnott. I mean, it doesn't look great right now, especially with how good Zach Ertz looks at 50 years old or however old he is. I thought he was almost out of the league, and then he comes back and does this thing. So
the thing with Sinnott is he's more of a Kyle Juszczyk mold. He's a move tight end, H-back.
Yeah.
He was his best film at K-State was him as a fullback running routes out of the backfield or being a lead blocker.
So then looking at Cade Otton, I mean, he had that stretch of 4 straight top 10 weeks with back-to-back number 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's on a good team with a good offense. I would much rather have him than anybody else on this list in tier 4.
He's a tough one. Like, I think you could make an argument to have him up in tier 2, but I think you also could argue that he's going to get replaced, or if Chris Godwin comes back to the Bucs.
See, Cade Otton reminds me of a Hunter Henry. And just that the situation has to be right, but it's like the wily veteran.
Yeah.
I think,
except he's 25.
I think with Cade Otton is I just think kind of like Dallas Goedert, he's a product of other people missing. So Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, were missing time. He ends up benefiting because he's the last guy there. So they got Jalen McMillan, who's finally coming on as a rookie. You get Chris Godwin coming back next year. I just think that Cade Otton, like, he might catch a touchdown every once in a while, but as far as actual production goes, it's probably not going to be there. If that makes sense.
It does. I mean, he has been getting it better every year. He was tight end 31 as a rookie, then 20 as a sophomore, and now he's tight end 9 overall.
I think the comparison Jameson made is spot on with the Dallas Goedert. I think he might just be a 5-year younger version of Goedert, where he could be a top 5 NFL tight end, but just She's a jag for fantasy purposes. That said, I would definitely move him into 3.5, if not 3. Hello, Mr. Bakes-a-lot.
Oh,
We double tapped.
we double tapped. Sorry, Mr. Bakes-a-lot. We're both excited to say hello, homie.
What's up?
All right. So, Jameson, do you want to move Kate Auden up?
I'm indifferent. If you guys want to, that's fine. I just think he ends up in that kind of mold. So,
All right. So
And then
now
we're
we're
good there.
left with Likely, Schultz, Sanat, and Fant, and Komet. Any of these guys we want to move out of this tier?
uh,
My hateful heart would still say Cole Kmet, but I'm willing to let it die there.
I think
That's-
I would move Ben Sanat.
I
would
too.
I was going to bring him up.
I mean, I think
Wow.
Noah
Tier
Fant.
5 is massive. Goodness.
Yeah, it was a massive tier. I think all of those guys in that tier still have some usefulness.
Yeah.
But looking at tier 4 and then tier 5 with it, we almost need another tier.
Yeah. The question is, do we really want to split this into 2 tiers?
No, because I don't know if I want any of these guys. There's a few.
couple.
I would take out all the young guys and put them into tier 4
Yeah.
because they still have hope.
Yeah. Yeah, screaming out to me would be Michael Mayer, Theo Johnson, Noah Gray, Luke Musgrave. Who is under Ertz? Is that Gesicki?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would.
Has he been at? What's he been doing? I feel like I haven't heard his name in a while. Is he on IR?
No, he's playing. I would, just because I think he's going to be back in Cincinnati on a cheap deal next year. He's got, I think I would move him up too, just because he's put next to Joe Burrow. You know that the pass rate's going to be through the roof. He would be like a flyer if you were in desperate need for some touchdown upside. But if Eric All hadn't have tore his ACL, I'm really worried about him. I'd be a lot more excited about Eric All.
Gesicki is a free agent after this year, so I think tier 4 with an asterisk for Gesicki. If he's not in Cincinnati or Kansas City or something, then move him down. But if he's in Cincinnati, you're right, Jameson.
All right, so let's leave him there.
Yeah.
Any of these other guys? I mean, Conklin, I liked running into the season, but he's getting replaced.
Yeah.
Chigakonkwo, outside of one play in overtime or heading towards overtime, hasn't done too much.
And the Titans like Wiley a lot.
Yeah. I might leave everybody else.
Yeah. Disley's the only one who might move up, but that would have to be post-draft if the Chargers don't draft another tight end or sign one. So for now, I think leaving him here is fine.
Yeah, I think that's like I said, if Eric All hadn't gotten injured, I think he'd move up. But everybody else is just these old guys. Like Juwan Johnson's 28, Will Disley's 28.
Really?
I believe so.
Hot damn.
Did I get that wrong? Yeah,
I think
Juwan Johnson's 28.
Yeah,
That's insane.
it is a Penn State pod.
Juwan Johnson went to Penn State?
Wide receiver.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking Tennessee, but that's Juwan Jennings, isn't it?
It is.
Anyway, sorry.
All right, so our final tiers are Tier 1, Trey McBride and Brock Bowers. Tier 2, TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, David Njoku, Sam Laporta, and Jake Ferguson. Tier 3 was Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert, Travis Kelce, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, and Pat Freiermuth. Tier 3.5, Kyle Pitts, Tucker Kraft, Dalton Kincaid, Jatavion Sanders, and Cade Auden. Tier 4, Isaiah Likely, Dalton Schultz, Noah Fant, Cole Kmet, Michael Mayer, Theo Johnson, Noah Gray, Luke Musgrave, and Mike Gesicki. And tier 5 is all the rest. Gentlemen, any final changes to this?
Only other names to potentially bring up would be some of the other young guys. AJ Barner from Seattle has shown some flashes. Then Brenton Strange, if Evan Ingram's gone, could be something. Not anything good, but something.
Jeremy Ruckert.
I love Jeremy Ruckert, but he's regressed so much.
I know, but that whole offense has regressed.
Such a bummer.
It is. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's leave these guys where they are. And let's answer a couple questions.
Yeah.
Mr. Bakes-a-Lot had a question for us, so we'll... Oh, you already did put that up? Great minds think alike. All right, he asked, start one, Julian Blackmon, Deron Bland, Derek Stingley, or Minka Fitzpatrick. I did not mean to make you the large... Jameson,
Please get me out of here. Please get me out of here.
Complete accident. Oh, the fates love you, my friend. So start one. Blackmon, Bland, Stingley, or Fitzpatrick. He's starting Nick Cross in his other DB position.
I'm not going to start either corner. Who are the Texans are playing the Chiefs? No. Who are the Cowboys playing? Tampa? No. Vault research here. I think I'd lean Minka, but I'm doing another little bit of digging real quick. They're playing the Ravens. Colts are playing the Titans. I'd go Minka here. Just stick with the star.
All right. Mr. Bakes-a-Lot. Mr. Harlow says go with Minka.
If you need a massive game, if you're massive underdog right now, then I would consider Stingley just on the hope he gets 2 picks again. But I will never start a boundary corner, which has bit me a few times, but it's just not something I'm really ever going to do.
We all need those standards in our lives. And if that's yours, more power to you, my friend.
Then another question from Sam.
All right. Sam says, hey, fellas, in a PPR league, which 2 would you start? Najee, Tracy, Bucky, Ramondre, or Garendo? Well, Garendo's not playing, correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Garendo's out.
So that makes this easier. Najee, Tracy, Bucky, or Ramondre?
Bucky for sure.
Bucky would be 1, and then
not Ramondre.
I'm just going to go back to Najee again. I think so. They play the Bills, and if the Patriots get down big, I think they're just going to play Antonio Gibson. So that would be my worry, like the dump offs and stuff. I don't think Ramondre would be the guy who gets that. Ramondre's not been good this year either. So
he's been hurt a lot too, which is a bummer.
It's hard not to get hurt when you have nobody blocking for you.
They're starting like free agents for offensive linemen this year. They're not even like starting drafted guys. They're just all getting very ugly. But
it was funny. Ross Tucker was on the Check the Mic podcast, and he said that he didn't know 2 of the names of their starters for this like last week. Damn. And he said, and that's never happened to him. Like at least you know of a guy or have heard the name mentioned.
Right. Drake May's been, honestly, the way he's handled it has been pretty impressive too. So that's why I think if anybody is bullish on Drake May, it's reasons for that. Because I mean, if Caleb Williams was behind there, I mean, we'd be having a funeral for him right now, the way he's been getting hit. So I just, like I said, I've been impressed with Drake May, what he's done. Because this offensive line, like if it was any other quarterback, outside of maybe some of the top guys who can run, I mean, they'd be on ESPN top 10 plays of them just getting Goldberg speared.
Yeah.
So getting ugly.
All right, Sam. So we're going with Najee and Bucky.
And I would go Tracy over Najee just from our earlier conversation, but
Okay. So narrow down to 3. You can choose from there, young man or lady. I'm sorry. I did not mean to assume a gender. My bad. Well, let's finish up after this commercial break, and it is football season, and that means a trip to see your favorite team on the road. Well, with Expedia, you get the best prices when traveling, and we are thrilled for our partnership. Need a flight to Denver, rent a car in Miami, or hotel in San Francisco? Go to idpplus.com/Expedia and build the best package to travel to the big game. All right, Joe. It is about that time where we shift from in-season mode to rookie mode in Dynasty. And this is where we just let you cook. So,
oh boy.
who are the top rookies that we should be watching on tape?
Do you want to go position by position, or how do you want to go about this?
Why don't you give me, as a Jets fan, some QBs who I can maybe hope we get?
So next position.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, where are the Jets right now in draft order? You guys are at...
We're 4 and 10.
So you're at 8th right now, though. There's a lot of parity on both ends this year.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to get there. So the top 2 quarterbacks are Shedeur Sanders from CU, formerly Jackson State. There we go. Lost that one for a second. And then Cam Ward out of Miami, formerly Wazoo, formerly Incarnate Word. They're right now with the Raiders and Giants being 1-2. It seems like those are going to be the first 2 picks. I'm not going to have a first round grade on either of them. Like a true first round grade. Granted, I think in this class I'll have 15 first round grades maybe. So my top quarterback was Drew Aller, who's going back. I still like Jalen Milroe more than Ward and Sanders, to be totally honest. But I'm also not going to have a first round grade on him.
So maybe in the second, you're saying.
Then you're looking at a Quinn Ewers. I like Riley Leonard as a backup option, potential later starter. Honestly, I think your best option is Derek Carr as a Jets fan, to be totally honest.
Hey, listen, I wanted Derek Carr when they signed Rodgers. That offseason, I wanted Carr over Rodgers. But
to get back to it, Sanders, though, he's a good prospect. I don't have a first round grade on him or Ward. I don't dislike them. It's just I don't put positional value in my rankings for that.
Okay.
So I think they're fine players. And if you took them in the late 20s, I think that'd be totally reasonable. Outside of the quarterbacks get a bump though. So early on, I don't think either are ready to be a superstar or face of the franchise. Cam Ward has a lot of Geno Smith in him, like earlier career Geno Smith, where he's just gonna rip it, grip it, and rip it. Where's it going to go? Who really knows? But he's going to make a lot of turnover-worthy plays, a lot of them.
What about at running back, young man?
Running back. Ashton Genty is freaking phenomenal. He's probably 101 in this class, even in super flex leagues. Unless you're in an IDP league, which there's another player who would overtake him. We'll get to that in a bit. Aside from Genty, who I'm sure everyone has heard about and knows he's potential top 10 pick, O'Marion Hampton from North Carolina, Bill Belichick's now school. Also, what the hell there, but Hampton's my running back too. This is, I think he's going to have a first round grade for me, or a near first round grade. I think he is absolutely phenomenal. He was the only reason that Drake May didn't die last year. So he was the only other not dog shit, excuse my French, player on that team. And he's been phenomenal. He's great all around back. Would have been running back 1 last year by a mile. This class overall is super deep. I think you can get to running back 15 and still have an NFL starter. Low end starter, but a starter. Looking at, there's so many names here. I like Quinshon Judkins a lot. Travion Henderson has shown a lot. Caleb Johnston from Iowa. Dylan Sampson from Tennessee are guys who are probably going to go in the top 50-ish, maybe top 60. But if you need a running back, this is the class. Even like a Jarquez Hunter from Auburn or Cam Scadaboo from ASU could be 5th, 6th round picks who could be not legit dynasty assets at some point.
Well, what about wide receiver?
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. There's a lot of good players, but Tet McMillan from Arizona, I think has the highest superstar potential. He's 6'4", 210-ish, great ball winner. He draws a lot of comparisons to like Drake London or Mike Evans. They're not perfect, but comparisons, like he's not the freak that Mike Evans is, but we're talking about a Hall of Famer, so and then he's not quite a Drake London too, but I do think he's that level of a prospect, a Drake London level of prospect. Luther Burden from the slot, I think could be really good, dynamic, a lower version of a Garrett Wilson, similar type, super twitchy running back with the ball in his hands, but slot only. Emeka Egbuka, I think, is in the Chris Godwin mold, where he's just going to be mostly out of the slot and just frankly just kind of a badass who's going to block his ass off, going to knock you back, and is going to be on the field every single play. Not the most dynamic receiver, but is still super solid. And then there's Travis Hunter, who I'm super curious what's going to go on with him. I still think he's most likely going to be a cornerback first and then be like a team's third wide receiver, being kind of like how Jaden Reed's being used right now. Out of the slot, he's not on the field on 12 personnel, which Reed should be, but that's another conversation.
Right.
He's getting 50 to 60% of snaps, getting a couple targets engineered to him, and he's a really good receiver prospect. I just think he's a phenomenal corner, and I think it's a lot easier to be a part-time offensive player than a part-time defensive player. I hear a lot. It's like, oh, just play him full-time on offense and let him match up a little bit on defense. And I think if that happens and you're playing like the Vikings, they're just going to make a way to get Justin Jefferson on Hunter, who hasn't practiced a lot of defense, and it's going to be ugly. But
yeah, I'm still of the mind. If I was his agent, there is no way in hell I'm letting him play two positions. Not unless he's getting paid two salaries.
That it's going to be super interesting. I definitely would not play him full time on both sides, but I do think he could do, I think, cornerback, and then if they drop down to like the goal line or two, or they're in 12 personnel, take him off the field, maybe 80% of snaps on defense and 50% on offense. I think you could get away with, and he could be really good.
I wonder if that's a turnoff for NFL teams who, like, especially if you're drafting in like the top 10, you don't, like, you have to have a certain plan. I know it's kind of comparing apples and oranges, but like when Tavon Austin came out of West Virginia, like a lot of his stuff he did was on special teams, and then like, we're going to make him a wide receiver too. And no offense to him as the wide receiver, like what he did at West Virginia and what he did in the NFL are like two totally different things. Like if you are drafting top 10, even though Travis Hunter's been really good at both, like you would want one solid, position player, not somebody who's very good at, two positions, if that makes sense. Especially on defense. Like if you get a team that is going to, run like 2-minute drill and like you can't substitute and do that stuff, how do you get Travis Hunter on the field? And no offense, a lot of these NFL teams aren't going to scheme up stuff for a wide receiver 3. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think that's the other kind of interesting part of Travis Hunter and where he goes this offseason.
I think teams could scheme some stuff up for him, knowing what he is, and like his ball skills are incredible. So he's not a limited slot player, which helps.
Yeah,
he is. I think if he was just going to be a wide receiver, he could be a legit top 10 pick in most classes. I think he's that good. But it'll be super interesting. Other wide receivers, there's a lot of wide receiver 2s or high-end wide receiver 3s in this class. People are going to fall in love with Trey Harris from Ole Miss, who is big, ball winner, and is super meh as a prospect. Very much just one of those guys who, he's big, he's fast, but doesn't really do much. So a lot of guys like that, a lot of really good wide receiver 2s for the league, I think.
Well, speaking of some wide receiver twos, top 5 Low Darks asks, should I drop Amari for Hollywood? Man, Amari has done nothing.
Except for the games, he did a lot.
True, fair enough.
He's getting a lot of targets, and Hollywood Brown is not a guy who is like a big target getter. Like as far as that's the other part of it. You haven't seen him all year. I know the Chiefs like need people bad, but I'd rather just keep Amari. He's still getting targets. He's with Josh Allen. Offense is a lot better than what the Chiefs are doing right now with Patrick Mahomes. So I know Amari has not been great as a Bill so far. He's getting targets. He's on a better offense still. And I mean, Hollywood Brown, like especially like the last year and a half before he got hurt, really wasn't doing it a whole lot anyways. So I think I just keep Amari.
I think I'm actually going to pivot here because I think go with Hollywood. I don't see a way I'm really starting either of these guys, to be totally honest, unless just everyone on my team has raptured. But I think part of it is we know what Cooper's been fine for the Bills, minus the one game with 14 targets. Hollywood, we don't know. So, and like if he gets a goose, if he gooses, how much worse is that really than Cooper at this point? Dynasty wise, if I'm assuming this is a redraft question, dynasty wise, I'm definitely keeping Cooper. But
yeah, you already know what you have in Amari. I don't think you're feeling comfortable starting him unless it's an exceptionally deep league. So you might as well take a shot on Hollywood Brown and maybe he pans out. But you're not going to start Hollywood Brown if you sign him, I hope. Like, I hope this is just a bench spot.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I just said hopefully. That was all I said. We're all good.
Come on in. Oh, that wasn't my house.
No.
All right. Well, tell me about the Penn State tight end, because this is a Penn State pod.
Yes, Tyler Warren has been absolutely insane this season. He's second in college football and amongst tight ends in yards and catches, I believe. I think he's second in both. God, he has 88 catches, just under 1,100 yards. It's weird. His usage is all over the place. He's their wildcat quarterback, especially with Bo Pribula transferring before the playoff. Something needs to change with the way colleges football's going there. It's a lot of weird logistics with the whole school thing. His PFF grade overall is 90.9, which is absolutely absurd. Never see 90s. Receiving grade's 93.2. He's winning 3/4 of his contested catches, only 2 drops. He's getting 7 yards after the catch, forcing 16 missed tackles on the year. He's had a lot of handoffs. I don't have that number handy. Should have opened that up, but he's being used in a super dynamic way. Phenomenal player, true first-round player, and still my tight end 2 in this class.
Who's tight end 1?
Colston Loveland from Michigan.
Okay.
I think their quarterback situation was, how to put this nicely, freaking atrocious this year.
Okay.
I think is the nicest way to say what Michigan's quarterbacks were. And Loveland was hurt a bit, but if you look back at the film from last season, 2023 season, Loveland was the best player on Michigan, and I don't think it was close, at least for the skill guys. Can't remember who was on their O-line at the moment, but not super important. He was dynamic, game changer. I think he's a slightly better blocker than Warren. Neither of them are great at it. I think both, if nothing else, they try, which I think for collegiate tight ends, that's a big thing to look at. It's the reason why I like Harold Fannin from Bowling Green a lot. He's small. He's like 6'2", 220, but he tries as a blocker. And if you try, you're going to be on the field. And if you're on the field, you have a chance to get targets. Loveland, I think both of them I would take as in the top 15. I think they'll end up top 15 players for me. I think you could realistically have leagues if you're in a tight end premium league where both are top 6 rookie picks. Again, with the running backs being so deep, wide receivers being and quarterbacks,
So it's
really
definitely like we should get a lot of second round and third round picks in this draft.
Yeah, I would really want to be I would want to get Ashton Genty for sure. And if you're in an IDP league, Travis Hunter, if you could play over team's wide receiver 1 and your DB slot, I will take that every time. And then after that, I want a lot of picks in the 6 to 9 range, and then a lot of second rounders. Because this tight end class too, there's a lot of really good players. I think there's probably another 8 guys who could be a low end tight end 1 for an NFL team, or your Noah Gray mold, who's useful for fantasy in some seasons. But,
all right, and it is an IDP pod, so I will give you
oh boy,
your top IDP prospect. You can only have one. Who would you pick first?
Well,
overall?
It's a good thing we're a Penn State podcast because it's Abdul Carter. Yeah, he's 6'3", 252. I think he's in a Brian Burns mold. I think weird thing, he's played off-ball linebacker most of his career. Again, last year with Thompson-Robinson and Adisa Isaac, who were at worst good college players. They just needed to get Carter on the field. And this year he has 90.7 PFF grade overall. His pass rush win rate is 22%. His against the run, he's also been really good despite being 6'3", 250. I think he's probably he might end up being he'll probably be a top 5 prospect for me in the class. Okay. True first round grade. I think he's the next guy. The Micah Parsons comparisons are a little on the nose with him being a Penn State off-ball linebacker turned edge who wears number 11, but I don't think they're crazy. I don't expect him to be a 15 sack guy year 1 like Parsons was, but again, outliers.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Joe. It is now time for tags, where we share any final thoughts we have. Let everybody know where they can find us. Joe.
You can find me on Blue Sky and Twitter at JoeLow63. IDPplus.com. My start-sit article dropped today, later than normal with the sick kiddos, but we made it through. That's about it. You can probably see me tweeting sadly about the Orioles if and when Corbin Burns signs somewhere else.
All right, Jameson.
Over on the Twitter machine at Jameson Rules, got DFS this Sunday with Joel Worth. 2 weeks left for that. We got playoffs, all that good stuff for you. Other than that, I think that is about it. Also on the Blue Sky, but really just the DFS playoffs the last couple weeks for underdogs. So if you are in the playoffs your regular season long, if you got some playoff best ball teams that you're sweating, good luck to you. Hope you win. Hope you win big.
All right. Well, I'm at JJ Wenner on Blue Sky. I still mess around a little bit on X, but not too much. Thank you to everybody who joined us on the stream tonight. We do appreciate you. We're going to take the week off next week, and we're going to return for our final episode live on January 2nd at 6 p.m. So from all of us to all of you, be safe, be well, and as always, boat drinks, my friends. Boat drinks.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.
Brick is a stupid name.